What's up, everyone? Welcome to Midnight Motivation, a real and raw podcast about motivation, entrepreneurship, and achieving success. I'm your host, Tony Pec. Welcome back to all my listeners of the Midnight Motivation Mob, all my fellow bosses, and I want to welcome all new listeners in. We have a very special guest with us here today. He is a 34-year-old millionaire real estate agent. He goes by the Luxury Lifestyle Agent and is the owner of Vanity Nightclub in Connecticut. Guys, I want to give a warm welcome to my good friend, Michael Ferraro.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up, Mike? How you doing, man?
I'm good. Long day, but I can't think of anything better to do than get on a podcast with one of my good friends. So, absolutely excited.
I appreciate you taking the time out to do this for us. I know you got tons of value you're going to drop to the audience. So let's get right on into it, man. Tell us about you. Who are you? Tell us your backstory, what you do. Let's get people hyped about who they're going to start listening to right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. My story starts in a small town in upstate New York called New Paltz. So you do you know New York at all, upstate?
Yeah, I've never been up there, but I'm familiar with it.
Okay. There's a little town called New Paltz, and it's like exit 18 off the thruway if you're going up there. And if you blink, you're going to miss it because it's such a small town. It's a little place. And my father was a football coach. And my dad was a teacher, and that's what he did. He did that for 40 years. He was actually a very good, high school football coach, one of the winningest in New York State. I'm very proud of my dad, and I watched my dad and be part of sports, and I grew up around sports. And when I was a kid, we didn't do things in the summertime. We didn't go to vacations and things like that. I went to double sessions. So I was a little kid. I had a whistle in my mouth, and I was doing hills and sprints and coaching and watching my grandfather, who was his assistant coach, and learn about the double tight wing tee and trap sweep and boot, and learn how football plays ran. And that was me growing up and doing a lot of sports. And my mom was a teacher as well. And we just lived in this town and did sports. And that's what we did. Blue collar. And it was funny. My wife was talking about wanting to get a pool, and I said, my mom, did we grew up, do we know anybody that had a pool? No, we didn't know anybody who had a pool. Like, that was incredible. And that's how I grew up. Blue collar, just hardworking, and everybody I knew was educators. And my dream was to go and become a big athlete in college, and eventually go on and become a teacher. And I want to be a phys ed teacher and coach sports. And I actually wanted to just, coach a collegiate sport like swimming. And I got into playing football, and I swam. And I was all-state for 4 years in football. I was a quarterback, and I was All-American in high school. And then I got a full scholarship to go to Southern Connecticut State University, which is a typical blue-collar school in Connecticut, right next to Yale. And we always say, Southern was a jock school. If you could find the school, you could get in. That's how it was. Like, if you showed your bus pass, you got into the school. And I ended up going there. I ended up getting a scholarship. I swam all 4 years, a 4-time All-American there, and got my exercise science degree. And I was excited. I was going to go become a teacher, and I was a swim coach. So I was actually coaching the national team in New Canaan, which is a very affluent area, but I could never afford to live there in Connecticut, and in that area in Connecticut. So I lived in a different part of Connecticut, which was called like Bridgeport. And there's nothing wrong with Bridgeport. It's just, if you know Fairfield County, Connecticut, there's a huge difference between Bridgeport and Greenwich or New Canaan. I mean, it's the inner city versus one of the most affluent towns in the country, and it's what we call the haves and the have-nots, right? And we were okay. And I met my wife through teaching and coaching, and I was coaching the national team. But I always did kind of feel like something wasn't right inside of me. I kind of felt like there was an entrepreneur that I've always had in my family and my life, and that's inside of me that I kind of always subdued for a very long time. And I always knew how to work hard and be an athlete, and I always figured that the path was pretty simple for me. And but I always kind of felt also too like, if it's weird to explain what an entrepreneur spirit like truly inside of you feels like. And I think there's a lot more people that have it than don't have it. And I think there's just a lot of people that get caught in the rat race and suppress it all. and they find the hobby that they do at night or in their spare time, and they love it, and they just try to get through their day so that they can get to that. I watched my dad do that. My dad loved football. My dad lived for coaching, and my dad lived for coaching in football because he was so competitive. But I watch him go, and he'd say, Mike, like, I'm trying to get through my day so I can then coach at night or coach in the afternoon. So he was a teacher because of the coaching aspect, not because of the teaching. And my dad always had that. And that was always kind of part of me too, but I never really thought about it that much more. So long story short, me and my wife, we get together, and she's a University of Bridgeport gymnastics coach, and she's a teacher. So we have our son, and I'm watching my son play in, this development that we lived in. And we made teacher money, and in that area, we just really couldn't get by. And it's not that we went on trips or anything. I was watching my son play in the parking lot of this apartment complex. And, we had bars in the back of our doors. And I'm just thinking, I'm like looking at my bank account, and I'm thinking, okay, I can tell you exactly how much money I'm going to make for the next 36 years.
Every single year.
That's right. And I know how much my wife's going to make. I know the same place I'm going to go. And I know it every single year, schedule. And you know what I mean? Like you can forecast to see your life for the next 36 years. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. But to me,
if you enjoy it, there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
100%. If that is your thing. And I just, at that very moment, I just said like, no, something's not right. Something isn't right. And I couldn't figure it out. And now, so I left teaching, and I coached the national team full time, which I loved coaching, but I also felt like, that definitely was not going to be enough for us to live. And I said to my wife, what are we going to do? I have to get us out of here. And my wife is such a great person that she was like, whatever we decide to do, we're a family, we're happy, yada, yada, yada. And that's the best person in the world, right? But it's aggravating as hell because you're like, no, you don't get it. It's not good enough. But she's going, it is good enough. But she's playing her amazing person role like she does every single day. And that's what she does. And I just said, okay, well, I can't go I remember being upstairs in this little tiny condo and looking at it, I'm like, well, we don't have enough. Well, what are we going to do? And I remember thinking, well, I could be a stockbroker or I could be a real estate agent. Because those are the only two that I could think of that you can go back and kind of get a license, or I can sell insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So I looked at what it would take to become all those. And then I was watching TV downstairs and I said, I could do that. And I pointed at the TV and we're watching $1 Million Listing. And she was like, what could you do? I was like, I could sell those houses. And she's like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, you should do that. You know what? I remember her being like, you should get yourself a suit and you should go and you should just tell them you want to sell the house. Like she was kidding. But I'm like, you're damn right I am. And I remember signing up the next day for the class. I remember going and taking the class at night as I finished. I was with my son during the day. And then I went to work all day. And then I would, at the coaching, and then I would leave coaching the national team and I would go and I would take this class till 10 o'clock. And I remember the first day I walked into the teacher and I was so hyped up. And I was starting to get this feeling that anything was possible. And when you start to have those feelings, like it's amazing. If you're an entrepreneur, you can have the shittiest day, pardon my French, but then you have that one flash of something positive. And we're those type of people that we see $1 million. Even if it's an idea, it gets boom, boom. And that's how it works. And that's how people like that get jacked up so fast. So if you ever hear entrepreneurs talking, if it's not the caffeine, it's probably something like that.
Oh, it's just straight energy and excitement. Yep, absolutely.
100%. And it's just like, that's how we roll. Mm-hmm. And that's why sometimes you get the right people, Grant Cardones of the world are so contagious because they wrap a bunch of these things together. So anyway, I went in and I said to him, hi, I'm Mike Ferraro. And he was like, okay, great, getting to sit in the class. And this is the inner city classroom. So the people I'm in there and I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I said to him after class, I said, yeah, listen, I want to sell luxury real estate, like high-end real estate. Do you have any specific courses or tips for that? And he looked at me. I remember he looked right at me and there was nobody in the classroom. And I'm going to curse, but I pardon my French, but he looked at me, he's like, son, why the fuck would anybody want to list their luxury house with you? Why? And I was like looking at him and nobody asked me that before. And it was the first time I ever had been asked that question. And I said, I don't know. And he goes, you should think about that. And I left and I went home and I played it over and over and over and over and over and over in my head. And I was like thinking about ideas and studying, and I was searching and researching and everything. And then I came up with what I thought was a pretty good answer, which was, I think I said something to him in the form of next day, like, I thought about what you said, and, because of who I am and how I am, there's nobody who's going to be working harder for you and that sort of thing, and blah, blah, blah. And it was a pretty good case I made, but it was just to prove it was a good point that the whole thing is you have to start asking yourself these questions. And he didn't believe that I could do it either, but, so I take this class, I get through it, and I basically get to a point where I've interviewed now every real estate company that you could possibly interview. And I was definitely the guy who would meet and interview and ask a lot of really tough questions to people who are looking at me. And if you interview as a real estate agent at real estate companies, you figure out really quickly, it's not an interview. If you have a pulse, they're going to take you.
They take anyone. It's crazy.
They take anyone. And you're sitting there like, yeah, I think I rock that. I think they really like me. Of course they do.
They all love you. They just want agents to make them more money.
Exactly. Of course they do. And, so I've interviewed every single one. I kind of had an idea of where I wanted to go, and finished the class. I failed the test 3 times. Fail. Now I am a terrible test taker.
Which is hilarious because you're also a teacher too.
Yeah. No, what's funny is as a kid, I was growing up, I was in the resource room. They used to put me in what's called the resource room, and that's like the special ed room.
Gotcha.
And they were like, something's wrong with them. And I was always good very verbally. I could speak well. I could spell really well. But when you ask me to write things down or write or do things, I had a very, very hard time. So things like taking tests were very difficult for me. I had a little bit of I don't know if it was not a processing issue. Well, I come to find out later on that I had a whole eye thing. Like when I was a kid, I should have had an eye patch on my left eye. And they didn't do that. So they were like, oh, you just have a super undeveloped eye. So what happens is like my brain works so hard to concentrate when I read that it can't process. So it was, picture this now. I'm like out of college, like, what the hell did you do to me, Mom? Like, why couldn't you just put the eye patch on me? That would have been so much easier. You stick me in a resource room. So I did a lot of like listening on tape. I was listening on tape before Audible was cool, man. Okay. Like I was an OG on tape guy. So long story, like I said, is that I get to the point where I'm now about to, I get in, I finally pass this test, and now I go to the one place that I think they can you sell high-end real estate, and that was Sotheby's International Real Estate. I was like, Sotheby's, and I'm going to do it in New Canaan, in the town that I work, which how great could that possibly be? Yep, and I don't mind calling out. Yeah, it's great. I'm working for a big company. Now, in my mind, I thought of these companies like law firms, like stock brokerages.
So did I. I worked at Houlihan Lawrence, man. You go for the big fucking names. You want the big names.
Yeah, that's what you.
It's appealing, man. It's like fun.
Right?
Yeah.
And you don't know. So I go in and I do what I've always done since I was young. And I'm 5'8". So being at the level that I was swimming, I was the shortest one by a foot. Being a quarterback in All-State, I was the shortest one. Not even being able to read or write well or do anything, but becoming an academic All-American in college. Obviously, my work ethic is there. I've never been the most talented in anything I've ever done in my life, period. I'm not the fastest, smartest, best, anything, nothing. But I just have always taken into consideration the fact that my dad always said he had to be the hardest worker in the room. And that's the only thing that I know. So I went ahead and I did what guys like us do, which is grind and learn and understand that if we know, we can then implement. If we can implement and have the knowledge, there's nothing can stop us. If we know what that guy knows or what she knows, we can have that power too. We know that.
Yep. If not more power. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
So I did that. I put it in. And then I basically realized real quick, oh, this is garbage. I realized that, this whole, like, I got to go to a company and the company's going to teach me thing was not what I was looking to do. So I went ahead and I started spending a lot of money on private people to help me and learn as much as I could. I didn't have any money, so I couldn't really invest in huge coaches. but I learned and soaked up every piece I could. Kind of like I listened to every podcast and read every book and watched every video and learned and soaked and read as much as I could. So I got to the point and I realized that it's me. It's me, the agent that people are purchasing with or working with or why. So
you are a brand. People don't get that,
Yeah, you're a brand, but your brand does something. You provide a service and your service is actually able to do what it says or not. So if I say that I can take you to the moon like Elon Musk and we can live up there, but I can't really do that. I mean, how long does that last? I have to actually do something. So I put those pieces together and I'll remember my goal. My goal was to sell the highest, best real estate you could. And the biggest objection you get is if you never sold anything before, how could anybody ever do that? And if you never do it, I don't trust that you could do it. So it's kind of like a proofs in the pudding thing. So I ended up specifically trying to target, in my mind, the people that I thought I'd be able to help the most at that level. I was able to come across my first client, who I'm not going to mention who this person was. It's a celebrity. It's a person who is very well known, and I was able to, I got the listing. I sold it in 9 days, well over $1 million plus, and that started. And then I was able to bring in the buyer as well. Now I did some things along the way that enabled me to do that. There's some ways I sell real estate that are tactical and geared for today real estate as opposed to 20, 30 years ago. Now, having said that, I continued that trend and moved in specifically to continue to sell high-end real estate.
Hang on, Mike, for 1 second, because before you closed your deal, how long did it take you to get that first sale? Because you completely missed out on this.
How long did it take me to get the first sale?
From when you got your real estate license.
Okay, so okay, so I spent about 4 to 5 months at this company, Sotheby's. I then went to another company. At the other company, which was a little bit more of a boutique kind of company, local guy, and but very, very well known in my area, very, very well known. And it was actually, he's a good friend of mine, a great mentor, he's an amazing broker, he's an icon in the area, but he's a local iconic guy. And he's got about 500 agents. And I thought, this is the guy to teach me. Now, he was a great guy. He didn't teach me anything really about real estate, but he's a good mentor and friend for certain other things. Now, this was probably a year of learning and not putting anything to action.
365 days.
Yes, I didn't do anything. I just learned as much as I could. There was a time there when I left Sotheby's where I wasn't trying to do anything. I just tried to learn. I was still working for this other, working in coaching. Now, when I decided to jump full time in and leave and burn my boats, that's when everything took off. It was almost simultaneously at literally the same exact time. And I jumped before the sale. I jumped before the listing.
How much did you make from that first sale after waiting 365 days to get the first sale from when you got your license? How much did you make in commission?
How much did I make? The first one, how much was that? I want to say it was like 50 grand.
50, yeah. And how much were you making as a teacher?
Oh, you make like probably 30 after taxes. You get 3,000, right? It was like 1,500 every 2 weeks. I think that's what I was making.
Yeah, 12, 20, 36,000 a year. So 36,000 a year, you become a realtor. 365 days go by, you're just absorbing knowledge. Your first sale, you make almost double what you would make in a school year from one transaction, correct?
Correct.
Fucking wild, isn't it? Real estate's crazy. But you know what? It's all the hard work you put into it to get to that point.
Yeah, and I wanted to quit. No, it's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because, I mean, it's funny when you talk about your story, and I try to talk about my story to try to run down where you can pick up on a path and go there, which is good. Yep. My dad almost didn't want to talk to me. You got to remember, I had my wife and my kid. Now I have another kid, and it was at the time it was like, what are you doing to your family? Mm-hmm. What are you going to go and do? Because the only people that I ever knew who had money were not the right kind of people, like wise guys.
Yep.
And I'm going to get into a sales job, and sales is such a dirty word. And but I had such a passion for it and, and love it and still do. But I, thinking about that, and I set out for that. I want to be very clear. That's exactly what I wanted, and that's what I set out to do, and that's what I did. I didn't fall into it. It was not a mistake. It was not just happened to be that way. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, to a point, I mean, you can only plan so much in life. Things happen, and I wanted that deal. I wanted that. I got it, and then we continued. Now, I continued to sell real estate, not because I targeted people or something or people came to me. I want to be also clear about that. I did not sell the house and then everybody and their mother called me. I got poached by brokers and agents and people who wanted to bring me on their groups, but other people around me doesn't necessarily work like that. And everybody thinks, if you sell one house, you automatically sell everybody's houses. That's not necessarily true.
Not even close. When you first got that first sale, though, was your dad proud of you at that point, or was he still like, "This is just a fluke"?
Yeah, it's funny now. My dad's one of my biggest fans, and I'm one of my dad's. I am the biggest fan for my dad too, and now he's we have best real estate properties. He's in business with me. He totally turned to 180. My dad's like that. My dad's like, show me first. And he's always been, that's the coach. That's the coach. I've always been coached.
But what did you do to face the adversity of your dad, like not being supportive for over about a year? That's a long fucking time, man. You were really close with your father too. So that must have made even like, what advice could you give people if they were in that type of situation where their family doesn't support their dream to be an entrepreneur? Because that's not an easy jump.
Hell no, man. I mean, I before I got into real estate, I told my wife, hey, I went to my dad. I said, Dad, I need $800 because I want to start this company called TrueStar. And TrueStar, if you know TrueStar supplements, it's a network marketing supplement company. Mm-hmm. That's what they are. You know what I mean? Like name them. There's a million of those supplement lines. They sell you protein powders and stuff, right? So like you sell it to your friend. Is it network marketing, right? I got that right?
Yep, network marketing. You're right. Yep.
So I remember like, Dad, it's going to be great. All you got to do is like give it to your friend. Your friend's going to give it to your friend. I'm going to make $1 million. And I just need $800. And he's like, you're going to piss this money away. And I was like, no, this is going to be it. So much so, and I try to peddle it to all my friends and family. So much so, my brother was my best man in my wedding. And my brother's best man speech, he goes, yeah. And everybody loves Mike and all get rich quick schemes like TrueStar, and it was a running joke that Mike always tried to do entrepreneurial things and could never do it. So like when they heard real estate, they were like, all right, here we go. This is
another fad.
There's another fad, and the same exact thing. And
but how do you block out the noise? Because that's not easy.
The biggest thing is when I got married and I was dealing with all that stuff, that was me and my wife and my family, and I was okay with trying to hang on with that. When I had my son, everything changed. Mm-hmm. I was not okay with that. I was not okay with putting my head on the pillow at night and saying, Daddy did mediocre today, or I'm going to look at him in the eye and say, we can't get out of here. We can't get out of this condo because Daddy was too afraid to try something different. Like when I teach people, I talk about their why. I say the why is basically like your superpower. And the bottom line is it really is your ability to overcome adversity. It's your ability to do so much, concentrate harder, because really what we're doing is we're tapping into a chemical in our brain that creates the adrenaline that picks you up when you don't want to do something. And it kind of motivates you. And I always tell people you find your why when you basically can't. Like for me, I got to a point where I do it enough where I can speak to my why, but mm-hmm. I can't, I probably couldn't get into the details of telling you exactly the story that plays in my head. Yeah. Because I would cry. You know what I mean? Like, yep. Like when you get to that deep and you get that level,
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. You're going to pull some stuff out of you. And that's what changed everything for me. So it wasn't, I didn't care as much about what people thought and more about you weren't going to stop me no matter what. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing when you find those, how powerful that is. So I could overcome anything. And then, so dealing with that with my father was like, this is happening. And when I remember leaning over and I remember having the check and bringing the check over his shoulder and like showing him. And it was an emotional thing. He couldn't believe it. And then I got into the world of prospecting. And when I got into the world of prospecting and started my own company, my own group, and what I wanted to do, it changed everything, because I had, for sell by owners and expireds and the way I do the calls and how I do them, I just feel like I have kind of gotten this down to a science, not because I'm good at a script and not because I tap into that. There's a lot of different nuances and scientifically, like, that I know that I'm going to be X amount better than someone else as far as prospecting. And I always tell it to people who watch poker. If you watch the people, do you play poker?
Not really, no.
Yeah, you know the game like No Limit Texas Hold'em?
Yeah, I know the guy. I'm not good at it, but yeah.
Okay. Do you know how remember how it was big a couple of years ago? Like, and everybody watched it and it was on ESPN, still is, but not as big as it used to be. For a little bit there, everybody played No Limit Texas Hold'em.
Yep.
And that was a big thing. And if you watched it, there was these superstars that were always in the final table. But there was other people on the final table like you've never heard of either.
Yep.
So it was a perfect example of how the skill will always take you and you will always convert more at the skill level. Mm-hmm. But there is a good enough factor. And in real estate with prospecting and stuff like that, a lot of people get away with the good enough factor for a couple of times. Mm-hmm. But if you want longevity and you want to be able to prospect to the highest level, now remember, I'm not interested. I was interested in just the highest level properties, the one percenters.
Yep.
Under $1 million was disappointing. So it had to be 5. It was $1 million, then it was $2 million, it was $3 million, it was $4 million, it was $5 million, it was $6 million, it was $10 million. It was like, and you had to go bigger and bigger. And this is not $1 million listing. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's no cameras following me around. Mm-hmm. I'm in a New York City market. I'm in a very quiet area where people want to be exclusive and don't want to be in that flashy world. So that's how I did it. And that's kind of the long story of how I got to where I am today, which is just a lot of hustle and hard work.
So tell us about where you are now, man. Why do we call you the luxury lifestyle agent? Tell me some of your accolades, man. I know you downplayed yourself. I told you about some of the last guests I had on here, and you're like, why the fuck me? But you're a big fucking deal, man, in the real estate. You do very well, Mike, and you're very young.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said 34. I turned it yesterday, so that's
happy
nice.
Birthday. I know. I was Sunday, and you were yesterday. I forgot to wish you happy birthday. I apologize, but happy birthday.
Thank you, man. Thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's I'm a baby in the game, dude. I mean, but that's a good thing. I go against my competition sometimes in real estate is 60, 70 years old, and they've been doing it for 30 years, and I love that. Mm-hmm. One of my biggest competitions is, sold, $100, $120 million properties at a clip, is iconic, and I love that because. I love bringing a breath of fresh air and taking on the question, this guy's got 30 years of experience and all these millions of dollars in sales. Why would I work with you? You're brand new. You've only been in the business, 3 years. You've been full time, 1.5 years, 2 years. Why would I, you did 35 million last year. That's great. But like, why did you, why are you, why are you not doing more, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I always say basically, are you happy with the market? Mm-hmm. Are you happy with how it is? Are you happy with the way it currently is and the trends? Because I didn't set it that way, did I?
No.
I wasn't part of that last 30 years. Like, if you like it, you can be part of however much left it's got, or you can be part of the way it's going to go.
Yep. So
that's your decision. But I would say right now, I took some of the money that I made and I opened up a restaurant, opened up a nightclub. We started a kind of a media marketing company. And my view is media marketing and real estate go hand in hand. I don't think it's going to be insurance and real estate. I don't think it's going to be mortgage and real estate. I think the world is so media marketing frenzy heavy.
Yep. So
what I wanted to do was create something that, as far as real estate goes, could do two things at one time. I wanted to, number one, I wanted to make the best possible agent I could, mm-hmm. and so that they can provide the best possible service, the most qualified, best agent they possibly could be. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I wanted to do was improve property values which I don't think anybody in real estate and anybody as far as brokerages talk about, because everybody's so money hungry, and brokers always talk about we need to have more agents so we can make more money.
Yep.
Where I'm more thinking like, wouldn't we make more money if we can increase property value because we're better at what we do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like
true.
Who has the opportunity to do that, And so I looked at it like, okay, well, let's get the best agents. So we train the best agents to where they have the best training. But then if you get the best agents and you ask the best agents, what exactly do you need the most? They always say, well, I'm already good at what I do. I just need services, man. I spend the most amount of money on my transaction coordinator. I spend the most amount of money on videography. I need to spend the most amount of money on photography or social media or whatever. That's where they spend all that money.
Yep.
At the really good agents or agents who work up in the beginning, they know that eventually you're going to get to a 90 or 100% split or whatever have you. It's the services. Stop giving me business cards. Give me the services that I actually need in 2018.
Yep.
So I wanted to give all the services back. So as an agent, you walk into an agency like I thought I was walking into a law firm. When you walk into those places, they have secretaries and paralegals, and it's a prestigious thing.
Yep.
So what I wanted is you're going to have $70,000 to $80,000 of investment money going into you before you made a sale.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a transaction coordinator. You're going to have an ISA. You're going to have social media people. You're going to have all this different stuff. So, that was part of my idea. And also being, like I said, media marketing, savvy in the beginning. It's all about getting our people out there to be able to put the best possible products out there and to put themselves out there in the best light. I think if you're able to understand how real estate is sold, I think if you understand the buyer psychology today, if you understand trends in sales, period, if you're able to increase value of properties through perception, increase the value of an area through perception, and we all did that better, I think real estate would do better. But they don't do that. They just, they want to have your 5% referral fee to get your buddy in. So that's what they waste their time on. So that's what I've been working on. It's listen, I'm trying to do something. There's a lot of this stuff is done out west, but I want to try to do this in my area, and that's what I'm working on. And with that, the nightclub and just being a dad and having the ins and outs of my current days, we usually run somewhere 20 to 25 pending transactions a month. And this is not a big team. I'm talking, right now, basically me and a partner of mine, and then I have full-time assistants. We're not sitting around doing nothing. Every single day is a hustle. Every single day is a grind, and we're growing. And going from the producer to the business person has been a trip for me because I can't even read, man. I can't, you know what I mean? Like I'm still the guy who still has a hard time with that. I mean, I do everything on Audible now, but and I read ferociously, but that's basically it. My wife got to stay home this year. She didn't have to work. We bought a house, cars, and all this stuff. And that's basically what I'm working on and where I am right now.
Which is awesome, man. How much in sales volume have you done since you've been a realtor? How long have you been a realtor, by the way? How long have you been an agent?
I'd say about 3 years.
3 years. And how much in volume have you done, total sales volume? You didn't give a guesstimate.
Sales volume.
Throw a number out for the guests, for the listeners.
So you remember that first year didn't do anything.
So pretty much in 2 years, how much volume did you move?
I would say we're close to. I would say we're close to about 50 million.
50 million in 2. You guys hear that? 50 million in 2 years. 34-year-old guy. Absolutely crushing it, man. You're doing fantastic. So whatever Mike has to say, you guys have to absolutely absorb. It's real advice. It's what he's done to be successful. Mike, what advice would you give to agents that are just starting out? What would you have wanted to know when you started that you didn't know?
Good question. And I'm building a product right now. We're hoping to launch it pretty soon. I'm sure everybody's got a product or something they're launching, but I just did this for the people who are in real estate or want to get in real estate and they don't have money for coaching these, $1,000, $2,000 a month coaches and all that stuff, which is great. I just wanted a product and I'm going to title it LA in a box. LA in a box will be leading lifestyle agent in a box. And you can get that box. You can know who to talk to, what to say to them, why you're saying it that way to get a listing, a presentation. And then here's the listing presentation. I'm going to give it to you, what to say, how to say to actually get the listing. And then we're actually going to break down, and we have tutorials on marketing and how to create do the photography and videography. You can basically create your own company, become your own LLA agent immediately to be able to do everything you would need to do that I did, that I wish I would have had this box the first day. And I'm not talking about 6-month runway of cold calling your friends and family. I'm not telling you about how to basically hold up the local baseball team. So with pies and t-shirts to solicit friends. I'm talking about how to work with people that actually need your help so you can make money in the first 30 days of real estate, helping your family who needs it now. So that's why I created this. So I would say and that doesn't exist. There's no such thing. Everybody has the long game, but nobody wants to talk about how you actually make money now. And so I'm going to put that out for people to have. I don't have a release date yet on that, but we're finishing out everything. We filmed the videos, the audios, and you could read it, you can look at it, and you can hear it for all the ebooks and all the content and then the marketing piece. So I would say the first thing that I would do if I was in real estate all over again, from the first day I got in, and everybody always says, go watch the local person listen, if you're working at a local place and you think that you're just going to go snuggle up with the biggest agent and they're not going to try to recruit you to be on a team or do something like that, that's crazy. So they're just going to, and I was part of that whole game and gimmick too, man. You just study. I mean, look, I think there's some really great books out there that you can read. I think that there's a lot of understanding that you have to go through in the beginning to learn. That's why, I wish I could tell you shouldn't use my product, but I mean,
no sales pitches, Mike. No sales pitches.
No, I'm trying not to, but listen, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, damn, I'm going to tell you right now that I think you should learn everything you're supposed to learn about the business. You're going to understand why you need to do what you need to do, because once you know why you need to do it, it's almost like having a cure for cancer, and you're going to scream out in the street that you know how to fix people's problems, and here's why. Without that knowledge, you don't have the confidence. Without the confidence, you can't do this, and it becomes fake. So, again, what would I do all over again? Shit, I would get LA. I would get LA in a box, but if you couldn't,
no sales, no LA in a box. It doesn't exist, Mike. Get that out of there.
Yeah, it doesn't exist yet. I know. I would say, honestly, weird. I would hop on YouTube.
Okay, that's good advice. That's practical. Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably hop on YouTube the first day. I would gobble up all the books that are out there about real estate to get you motivated. Hell, man, I the first book that I read that I would probably tell anybody to read if they're getting into it. I would go get Grant Cardone's 10X.
Okay.
Go get yourself Grant Cardone's 10X, and then help you, because I remember reading that before I got my license and just being jacked up. That was a good book too.
It is a fantastic book. What about when they first start out? What would you say to them to get clients? Instead of going to all your family and friends, like you said.
Okay.
What's a good way, you're starting out, or even if you did start out, you're 6 months in and you haven't had much success, how do people start finding clients if they're not good at networking, or what can they do to network,
Yeah, I would say without a doubt, pick up the phone, start prospecting for sale.
Okay.
Yeah, but call for sale by owners and expireds. Call for sale by owners and expireds. For sale, yeah, those are the best of the best that you can get, because those are people that actually need your help now. Again, there's a lot of different methods to selling real estate. This is what I did. This is what I chose to do, and I really love. Yeah, that's what I chose to do.
Yeah, so if you got a good personality, just pick up the phone and fucking call.
I was gonna say, even if you don't, still pick up the phone and call. But it again, it goes back to skill, man. I'm telling you,
good at
it's all about skill.
Yep,
yeah,
I believe it.
Yep.
I got a question for you now. Give me your biggest business failure and your biggest personal failure. And what did you learn from it? I feel like you got good ones, man.
Dude, I'm having a long day, man. I got myself one of these sparkling seltzers here.
Stop it. No bullshit, Mike. Give me an answer. Biggest business failure, biggest personal failure. The people want to know.
Biggest personal failure. I usually always have something good to say. Biggest personal failure. I don't know if it was a I don't even know how to explain it. Not a personal failure. I think I loved coaching very much, and I still love coaching, and I love the sport of swimming, and I did it for a long time. But I think sometimes I look back and I say, if I would have did this earlier on, if I would have made a jump earlier. Now it's hard to say because it's hard to say because that's 22, right? Hindsight's 22. It's 2020, and I can't. I can't do that because it brought me to where I am, so I can't. But I look at my life and I said, well, if I would have started this when I was 21, I would be where I am at 30, and I already have kind of built the business, and I could be living this life a little bit different in my 30s instead of trying to build this in my 30s. But that's the only thing I would say probably not, because I don't regret anything. I really don't. As far as business failure, I don't know, man. I don't think I've been in business long enough yet. I'm not like, listen, you got some guys that have been on your podcast that have done some things, and they have done some things in some major ways. I think if you can take anything from me and my story, I'm just like anybody else. I'm also learning as I'm doing it. I would take value from the podcast that you've had with the guys that you've had on before, and I would listen to that same way anybody else wouldn't take value from it. And I'm humble enough to understand that I know a lot. I don't know a lot still, and I grow every single day, and I'm always trying to get better. So for me, as far as business goes, I'm sure my biggest business mistake is yet to come. Probably the stupidest little one is probably doing something stupid like TrueStar, wasting money, or like, or going to the wrong company earlier. But again, hindsight's 2020, man. I can't balk at that. It brought me to being on a podcast with you, so it was all worth it.
I love to hear that, man. Yeah, but like you said, you're extremely humble, and I think that in and of itself, that's something to take away from you, how to be humble even when you are successful. You've done over $50 million in sales volume for real estate, and you're saying you have such a long way to go. So I think that right there in and of itself is what people can take away from you, because for a lot of people, that's like a goal that they would set, and you're there, and you're like, I'm not even close to where I want to be yet. I know there's more for me, and I'm just getting started, and you're still looking to learn, and you're not slowing up at any point. You're going faster, if anything. So I think that's a good takeaway from what you've talked about. So, Mike, I loved having you on here, man. Where can my followers find you?
If you're thinking about getting into real estate, you want to check me out as far as some stuff that I have, some content. You can go to the Leading Lifestyle Agency Agents Only private group on Facebook. I am on Instagram with, what's my Instagram handle?
Yes. Luxury Lifestyle Agent.
Yeah, the Luxury Lifestyle Agent is Instagram. And then my website is theluxurylifestyleagent.com. And you can also LA Real Estate, which is the Leading Lifestyle Agent real estate group. LA Real Estate should be coming up probably in the next couple of weeks. And then I'm sure we'll be launching LA in a Box. And we have some big stuff in 2018 planned. We have Polo is going to be big this year. I've never seen or been part of Polo, but one of my clients owns Greenwich Polo and Backcountry Greenwich. So we have some VIP seats. Prince Henry was there a little while ago with his polo team. I think they beat Greenwich Polo, but we're going to go and be part of that and be part of the big Tesla Tesla grand opening in Manhattan. I think I go there next week.
Oh, that's
so we're
awesome.
putting everything on film, and a real big media push for a lot of different stuff that I'll have, and I'm sure I'll find it. But I've been very quiet about the build out of this and what I've been doing, so that I can kind of let this all go locked and loaded. We have a lot in the chamber, so I'm sure it'll be out there.
And you're also part of this podcast, which I consider this podcast more than a podcast. It's a movement. And we call the people that listen in, they're part of the Midnight Motivation Mob. And what the mob stands for is made of bosses. And a boss is built on self-sacrifice, which you obviously exemplify. You are a self-made entrepreneur. And I want to say welcome to the Midnight Motivation Mob, Mike. You are obviously a fellow boss. So very happy to have you a part of this. Guys, I hope everyone listening in, you go subscribe, rate, and review. We're dropping you all this value for free, except for Mike's sales pitch that he threw in, but we're not going to hold him accountable for that. Don't worry. Maybe we'll get Mike on here again. I know he dropped great content, and I'm sure he'll want to talk about more real estate detailed oriented stuff next time I can get him on here for you guys. If you have any questions, send me a direct message. Tony Pec _. Send Mike a direct message, luxury lifestyle agent. He'll be happy to answer any questions and get in touch with you. Mike, it was a pleasure having you on here, man, and I look forward to doing more with you in the future.
Tony Pec is the man. Follow and listen along. Thank you so much for inviting me to this group, man. I'm a proud member. So thank you.
Boom, baby. You're a boss, Mike.
Thank you, sir.